Hey everyone. You know what I never realized? How much the story of Joseph in the Bible reflects Jesus. Okay, let's play it out. You ready? It's going to be fun. Okay. God took a man and he sent him ahead to do the hard work, to prepare the land, to prepare a home for his undeserving family. This man was obedient. He was grateful. He was truthful. And he always gave praise to God. And he was obedient. And this man was Joseph. If you hadn't figured that out. And so then when his brothers come, he's like, oh, don't worry about it. You know, like they're all crying when they figure it out. He's like, don't worry about it. This was God's plan all along. He sent me ahead to prepare for you. Then his whole family comes. They're all living there. It's the years of famine. And I get to chapter 47. And this is where it really blows my mind because I hadn't remembered this part of the story. And it sounds like it's around maybe year 5 or 4 and of the 7-year famine. And the Egyptians are coming to Joseph, who's Pharaoh's mouthpiece. And so they're like, Pharaoh, like, have mercy on us. Like the first year they come and it says they pay all their money to get food from Pharaoh. Joseph is in charge. So like they come to him. And so they pay all their money. They give all the money, buy food for their families. All the Egyptians are doing this. And the next year they come and they're like, Pharaoh, we don't have any money. Jesus, we don't have any money. But we have livestock. Can we trade that for food? Joseph says, sure. So he takes all their livestock, gives them a year's worth of food. The next year they come back and they say, my Lord, we can't deceive you. You have all of our money. You have all of our livestock. The only thing we have left is our lives and our land. Please take them and give us food so that we don't die in front of your eyes. And Joseph says, okay. Like they want to be his slaves. All the Egyptian people are begging to be slaves of Joseph. Because they know he's fair and they know he can keep them alive. And they would much rather that than die. And so Joseph says, okay. And it says he buys every single Egyptian for Pharaoh and all of the land except the land that belongs to the priests because they just get food for their job. Like that's like kind of like the Levites. And so so now Joseph bought all the land, all the people, all the money, all the livestock, and he's got all the food. And he's got his family there now, and they have primo real estate. It said they had the best in the land, said they settled in Goshen in the district of Ramses. I thought that was interesting as well. And that was where they got to reside and take over. And so Joseph owns everything for Pharaoh. Like Pharaoh picked Joseph to be in charge because he saw Joseph was shrewd and wise. And Joseph, after he bought all the people, he gave them grain and seeds. And he said, okay, you guys continue living wherever you live. And now your job is to just be farmers. And the only rule is you have to give 1/5 of your farming back to Pharaoh. And then you can keep the other part for you and your family and for future farming. That is so deep. That is so Jesus on so many different levels. And I don't know if everyone else had thought about this and realized like the ways that these are connected and the similarities and the depth of similarities. But it was beautiful and it was intriguing at the same time because I'm listening to these people beg to be slaves. And in my mind, I'm like, there are some people who are so proud and egotistical. They would rather die than obey Jesus. And these Egyptians had such humility and honesty. Like, they're like, we ain't even gonna try to deceive you. This will be the truth. Please help. Please help. They wanted help. And no, they didn't have any other choices, but that's where we have to trust God, that he put Joseph there for a reason, that God put whoever is there for a reason. And Jesus is the reason. And Jesus, God sent down to earth to live among the enemy, basically, just like Joseph had to. And Jesus did the hard work. He lived a perfect life, speaking the truth and showing us through his actions what love looks like. Then he died, rose again, and then he told all of us, hey, this is just a mirror. This is just a reflection of what is to come. Now I'm going up to heaven and I'm going to prepare a home for you. I'm going to prepare a room for you. I'm preparing a city for my people. A new Jerusalem. And one day when it's all set, when all the rooms are built and every single last one is prepared, I'm going to come back and I'm going to gather all of my children, alive and dead, past and present. And I'm going to gather you all up and you're going to come live with me. And you're going to live with me in protection and security in a way that has never been experienced before. Because all of this that's happened, it's growing pains. We aren't even there yet. This is just a glimpse. And there's so much more and so much better to come. So I'm asking you, please be humble. When the Lord comes to you, when Jesus knocks at your door and he asks you to let him in and he asks you to believe the truth, please don't ignore him. Please open the door. Please eat with him as a friend. Please welcome him in. Because the truth will set you free. And true love casts out all fear. I love you guys. He loves you more. Have a great day. The Lord be funny this morning. I had to add on to this video because he be funny. So one of the things that really stuck me about the story of Joseph was the planting seeds idea. And because Jesus taught seed planting a lot, and that concept is woven throughout the entire Bible. The idea of a seed, and how a seed, when it dies and it's isolated and dark and alone, it takes time and love and attention, but it will grow, and it won't look anything like what grows. Doesn't even resemble what died, but it grows and it multiplies and it bears fruit, and it produces more that can, like, it. And the Bible teaches that God is the bread of life, and we're supposed to go to him daily and gather the seeds of truth from the Bible that he wants to teach us, and then go into our everyday life and our everyday, world, and plant those seeds of truth in the hearts of people that aren't reading and that aren't listening and that aren't in relationship. And so the idea that these people kept having to come back to Joseph until they belonged to Joseph, and then he was able to give them the ability to do it themselves in relationship with him. And one of my favorite Bible verses comes from Psalms. Well, I didn't remember where it came from, and that's why I looked it up, and that's why I'm making this video and adding it. Anyway, but it's in Psalms. It popped into my head. And the verse says, they that weep as they are, those who plant in tears will harvest with shouts of joy. They weep as they go to plant their seeds, but they sing as they return with the harvest. And our pain, there's always gain if your heart is pure. And if you belong to the Lord, he will always turn it to good, and he will always have you singing and rejoicing with the harvest. And I was thinking about this verse, and I was like, oh, I wonder where it's at. So I looked it up, and it's in Psalms 126, and it's verse 5 and 6. And so I was like, well, I wonder what the rest of it. So I opened that up in my Bible app, and the title was, well, in the King James Version, it says a song of decrees. In the New Living Translation, it said something like Jesus brings New Jerusalem. It says a song. I don't know if I can do this. A song for pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem. So that's what a song of decrees translates to in modern English. And because of the video I just made, that phrase really popped out to me. And I was like, oh, this what we doing this morning, Lord, huh? Where are you taking me? Like, because God, Jesus has been showing up big all morning. And it's like barely 5 o'clock. He woke me up at 2 this morning. Apparently, he had some stuff to talk about. So he's been sharing all sorts of things. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, we're doing this. I'll bite. I'll listen to the whole chapter. It was only 6 verses. I didn't realize it was so short, but it was only 6 verses. And so I listened to it. And the first verse says, when the Lord brought back his exiles to Jerusalem, it was like a dream. And it goes on and it says, we were filled with laughter and we sang for joy. And the other nations said, what an amazing thing the Lord has done for them. Yes, the Lord has done amazing things for us. What joy. Restore our fortunes, Lord, and take us out of captivity. As streams renew the desert. We'll come back to that because that's continuing down the rabbit hole. And those who plant in tears will harvest with shouts of joy. They weep as they go to plant their seeds, but they sing as they return with the harvest. And I was like, wow, That's amazing. That's beautiful. And I saw this little note at the end of verse 4 that it was noting streams renew the desert. And so I looked at the note, and it said it was cross-referenced with Isaiah 65 verse 6. And so I'm like, well, I wonder what that's talking about. So I look up that, and that chapter is also talking about the return of Jesus at the end times and him coming back. I had to flip to the chapter before because I skimmed chapter 65 in Isaiah, and I'm like, it didn't have a title, so I flipped back, and it was the second coming. And then during the second coming, and that verse is such an encouraging verse. Verse 6 is talking about your sight being renewed, which is what happened to me this morning. It was talking about streams popping up in the desert, fertilizers, it's amazing. It's an amazing verse. And it just went right along with everything else that Jesus has been teaching me this morning and leading me through with my Bible time. And he's preparing us. He always mentally prepares you. He always prepares you before he moves. What's he preparing you for? I know what he's preparing me for because this is what he's teaching me about. And he doesn't teach me anything that I don't need. So I better pay attention, and I better learn it good. That way I can recognize what's going on and I can see. I would recommend you pray that prayer for yourself. It will change your life. You don't want to get left behind. You don't want to see too late. His love language is belief and obedience. You act out what you believe. What do you believe? I love you guys. Dig deep. He's coming back.